Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. And as you can see, we have all the new Warhammer 40,000 starter sets. Games Workshop released this weekend, and we have our Indomitus set. So what we want to do is we want to do a value for money comparison between all these three boxes. Now, using the standard metric of the number of models divided by the price, they're stacked out this way. Indomitus is the best deal, then the Command Edition, then the Elite Edition, then the Recruit Edition. But that's just a per model basis. Now, whenever you buy these, there's always a certain scenario of how you're going to use them. And there's a lot of people who want to get into the game who don't know where the best place to start. So I will say, we'll start with our findings first. We'll put the bottom line up front, and then we'll go through the value of the boxes later on in the video. But just so you know what we're thinking right now, if you are an existing hardcore Games Workshop person and you like these miniatures, Indomitus at $200, best value, hands down. You get the most miniatures for a very low price in Games Workshop's pricing matrix. However, let's say you can't find the Indomitus box anymore at your friendly local game store or Games Workshop, and you're left with these three editions. If you are the hardcore player, Command Edition all the way. However, if you are getting into the hobby and you are tepid in any way, you don't know, maybe you'll like this, maybe you won't, or if you are a parent buying for your kid who says they want to play this game but they haven't put any money down, you're going to get them started, a birthday's coming up, Recruit Edition. In our opinion, Elite Edition is the compromise between these two ends, and in all things with compromise, you might as well just hit the extremes. So, let's actually get into these and see what you get for the money. Alright, so what we see here is all the models that came in the Indomitus set. We did a previous video about that, but you can see I've started doing my test paints and started working my way through the army. But this is $200. So in the Indomitus set for $200, you can get enough Necrons and Space Marines to play at the Combat Patrol level and at the Infiltrator level. You don't have enough to play at the full Battle Rattle, everything 2,000 point game. But this gives you enough to play a campaign at different levels. So good value. It also comes with the fancy rulebook right there with all the art, and you can club someone with this. Very good. The rulebook alone normally go for $50 to $60, so right there you can say these models are $140. Just even the 200 divided amongst all these, it's a very low cost per model. Now, let's talk about what you get in the Command Edition. Well, in the Command Edition, a lot of these special characters are going away. The Scorpack Lord, the Reanimator, a squad of Necrons, the Crypto Thralls, the Plasmancer, the Royal Warden. They're going away. Okay. Now, on the Space Marine side, we'll just get rid of your heavy support Eradicators, your Blade Guard Veterans, your Judiciar, Chaplain, Bannerman, I know it's an agent, and the Lieutenant are going to the side here. You're then going to lose half your Assault Intercessors. So $165 retail is what you get left with the Command Edition. However, my favorite thing about the Command Edition, and why I got it, is you get a stack of terrain and a board to play on. These are similar to the boards you find in the Kill Team boxes. Now the reason I like that is where in the Indomitus set you got enough to run a Combat Patrol up to an Infiltrator. These are enough models to run a Combat Patrol game. But unlike the Indomitus, it has the board you need and the terrain you need to make for an interesting Combat Patrol game. So the Command Edition, just straight out of the box, you've got the minis you need to start playing, a full campaign if you want to, you've got the board to play on, and you got the terrain to play with. You also get a rule book. Now, it's not the fancy rule book, it's a tiny rule book. And you know what? I actually like these. When I have to travel around, I don't want to have to bring this. I'd much rather prefer to bring this. And something noticed is they've previously done tiny rule books, but one thing they've done with the chapter approved is the books are now the same size. So the idea is you can go travel to the store, you can go travel to tournaments, like when I leave New Mexico and go to Nova Open, if I ever go to LVO or Adepticon or anything else out there, and you need to bring rule books, this is a lot easier to bring on the plane. So I was wondering why they shrunk down the chapter approved. It's because it fits the size of the travel rule book. And even the little tournament recording book, it's the same height but not the same width. But so I actually like the tiny rule book. Now something else they'll throw in there, and this is consistent throughout all the starter sets, is most of the core rulebook up at the front is fluff and modeling and hobbying aspects of the game. Well, the command manual is all those things, but condensed. So that's cool. And also your assembly instructions. And you can start running some missions out of here. And surprisingly enough, I wasn't expecting this, they put the rules for the Invader ATV squad, the new Fire Strike servo turrets and models we know are coming out, the new Canatech Doomstalker and the Locust Heavy Destroyers. So models that aren't in this box but are supposed to be coming out soon after the release of the starter sets. So I'm happy with that. So that's why I think if you're going to get into this and you miss the Indomitus, the Command Edition is probably the best buy, just from the value of the terrain alone. Because the terrain and the playboard by itself retail is $90. So if you figure that you're going to need terrain and board to play on, the Command Edition $165 minus $90, $75 to get these out here. And I like to play kill team, so I got my Assault Intercessors and a Necron squad. So those can do double duty. And if I can find anyone to play commanders or elites, we'll wait and see if we get kill team rules and when we get them for these guys. Now the Elite Edition is not a bad box. It is much like this, but you lose the terrain and you lose the rule book. You still get what they call the Elite Edition manual. So for $100, so you take $65 off, you lose the terrain and the rule book. That drop in $65, I'd rather spend the extra $65 and get the rule book and the terrain, which is probably what Games Workshop was planning. Restaurants like to put those mid-tier food items in so that you'll either buy a bunch of the cheapest stuff or just go ahead and splurge and get the steak dinner. That's what the Elite Edition is. Now I should say it does come terrain. The terrain is the box itself. And we saw this in No Fear and First Strike, of where the box you're playing with has a fancy wrap on it and they're supposed to jump around it and suspend disbelief. But I don't know. It just sits in between, below the Command Edition, but above the Recruit Edition. So let's talk about what you get in the Recruit Edition. So you're not going to get the rulebook. You're not going to get the terrain. Once again, the box is the terrain. The play space that you play on, not as nice as what you get in the Command Edition, but let's say this is $50. And what do you get for the $50 on the miniature wise? Because you're going to get the hobby manual called the Recruit Edition, like I showed in the Command Edition. You're going to get the box as terrain. You're going to get the board to play on. You're going to lose the Scorpec destroyers. Okay? And instead of a Necron Overlord, you're going to get a Royal Warden. On the Space Marine side, you're going to lose the Outriders. And instead of a Captain, you're going to get a Lieutenant. I did a sub-assembly on the shield, so it's falling off. I'll glue it in when I finish painting him. So $50. The per miniature cost is still good. And I like the Recruit Edition, not for the value for money that it represents, but as a taster to get into the game, because eBay is filled with Games Workshop mistakes. People who bought starter sets, cut into them, got halfway through the models, and figured out this is not for me. When you give someone, so I'm talking to parents out there, when you give this as a gift, or if you're a new player and you get a whole bunch of gray, and just mounds of gray. So if someone dropped several stacks of this in front of you and said, enjoy your game, you know, after a month or so, and you're not even playing yet because you've never hobbied or anything, it gets overwhelming. $50, $25 per side, so apparent, cheaper than, you know, some video games. And as friends, if you're splitting the box, $25 a piece, not bad. This is a better taster and a more affordable taster. And with this model set, it's easier to process through these models. Get it assembled, get them primed at least, get them painted, and get playing games. So honestly, when Aaron and I assembled these, gosh, we did most of the Indomitus box in a day. So these would only be a couple hours of work for a person to put together, and that's what you're working for. Now, I will say, they say you don't have to use glue. Use glue. These things will fall apart, especially the Necrons. These are fiddly little things. That's an aside. Just glue them together. Watch our videos on our assembly. We'll show you how to do it. Now, something I wanted to bring up is if you play Kill Team and you want these models right away, they haven't released rules for them, this is the best set. Unless you're a Necron player and they release elite rules for the Scorpec destroyers. I just love these models. I normally don't like Necrons, but there's something about these guys. Love them. So, as you can see here, we'll start drawing this to a close. Indomitus, the best buy. If you're a hardcore player, you already love Games Workshop, you've been bitten by the bug, new player or old player, and you're just all in. You don't care what you have to do. Command Edition. Elite Edition is a mediocre compromise. Recruit Edition, that's for people who don't know. You're not sure yet. You want a minimum investment. So, thank you for joining us at Miniature Wargaming Labs, and we'll see you next time.